Miami Beach has been paradise for some, but not to all. Like anywhere in America, especially in the Deep South, prejudice and discrimination kept some people off the beach except to work or confined them to living only in certain areas. Jews started coming to Miami Beach in the 1920s, just as it was beginning its first wave of development. Among the earliest Jewish settlers were Hungarian immigrants Joe and Jenny Weiss, whose fish sandwich business in 1913 evolved into one of the most successful restaurants in America, Joe's Stone Crab. This is 5th Street in the 1920s. This was the dividing line. Jews were restricted to living in the area south of 5th Street, which became their shtetl, or village.
My grandparents had a sign shop on 1st Street. My aunt had the hotel on 1st Street. A lot of my friends lived on 1st Street. And my father's name is part of the sign on the Jewish Museum on 3rd Street.
Developer Russell Galbut's grandfather owned a drugstore on the corner of Washington Avenue and 5th Street, a local hangout and the place where Jews got their driver's licenses.
You had Thrifty's, which was the biggest kosher supermarket at the time. You had the world famous restaurant, and you had the Royal Hungarian, and all these fabulous restaurants that went up and down the street that really had a Jewish slant to it.
After the Great Depression of the 1930s, Jews started to arrive in Florida, especially Miami Beach, a place that was booming with jobs and opportunities. Jewish bankers helped some businesses through the tough times. The biggest migration came after World War II. Thousands of soldiers who had trained in Miami Beach decided to settle here permanently. With the GI Bill, they had financial help going to college and buying their first homes. Despite the fact that more and more Jews were coming to Miami, anti-Semitism and discrimination were still prevalent. Miami Beach hospitals were off-limits to Jewish doctors. So, in 1946, a group of Jewish physicians and philanthropists formed Mount Sinai Hospital, now the largest independent nonprofit hospital in South Florida. Tourists have always come to Miami Beach for the sun and surf, but starting in the 1950s, a new attraction was added, the Destination Resort Hotel. Much more than a place to sleep, these hotels became the venues for the dream vacation. Visitors relaxed on the beach or poolside during the day. At night, they dined, danced in glitzy ballrooms, and were entertained in nightclubs without leaving the hotel's lavish premises. Some of the hotels literally catered to Jewish tastes, with kosher food and nightly entertainment, with famous performers, many of them Jewish themselves. About the same time, many Jewish union workers in the Northeast were able to retire with good pensions and Social Security checks, thanks to President Roosevelt's New Deal. Miami Beach gave them a place in the sun, with affordable rent, kosher restaurants, Yiddish theater, and the companionship of other Jews who shared their European and Eastern European culture.
Growing up on Miami Beach, it was very interesting. I mean, the median age when I was growing up was 67. And I know this because when I later became mayor, the city had gotten so young, the median age was 37 in the 2000s.
In spite of a much more tolerant atmosphere, anti-Semitism persisted, especially in the beach's upscale neighborhoods, with their exclusive beach clubs and golf courses. Ruth Karp and her husband wanted to move up from the 5th Street area to the more exclusive neighborhood of Bal Harbor.
A friend of mine was in real estate, and she took me to Bal Harbor. She said, there's a great piece of property. I said, this would be fine, and bought the property. And I applied for membership at the Bal Harbor Club. Was not treated very nicely when we asked for membership application, and we were turned down. I fought it legally, yes, and won. They paid $450,000 legal fees to keep us out.
During the 1960s civil rights era, a group of progressive Miami Beach Jews, led by state legislator Jack Gordon, joined black leaders in Miami to form the South Florida chapter of the Congress of Racial Equality, known as C.O.R.E. They participated in demonstrations and sit-ins against segregation.
The first meetings were loaded with Palm Island people. That's all were in there. The civil rights movement was one of the great lessons for me, because until then, and where I came from, I had never met white people, some of whom were more interested in rights for Negroes than many Negroes. On our demonstrations here in Miami, for every one black person was in it, we had 2 whites.
We started the first C.O.R.E group down here, down in the South, in 1958. We all decided that we were going to sit in at the 5 and dime stores. So the first sit-in, a group of us, mostly women, as best I recall, mostly Jewish women, we would sit down, we white women or men, if there were some, at the counter, and as we were ready to order, some black people would come in and we would say, oh, this is my friend so-and-so, let her sit because I know she has to get back to work. And so that happened at a few different seats, at which point the manager came out and the waitresses stopped serving. And the manager would say, I'm sorry, we don't serve Negroes. And as John Brown said, is that he would say later on, he said, we don't eat Negroes.
By 1981, Jews made up 62% of the population of Miami Beach, and they elected their first Orthodox Jewish mayor, Norman Ciment. He made the entire city of Miami Beach kosher by installing an eruf, a wire which designated an area as kosher. Orthodox Jews were then freer to move about on the Jewish Sabbath. This accommodation created a boom in Jewish tourism, particularly during high holy days like Passover and Rosh Hashanah. As they aged and real estate prices skyrocketed, many older Jewish residents moved north to Broward. Miami Beach's Jewish population is now less than 16,000. That's less than 19%. At one time, the city of Miami Beach had the largest population of Holocaust survivors outside Israel or New York City. So it was fitting that the first memorial to the Holocaust outside of Israel was built on Miami Beach. The 54-foot arm reaching to the heavens was sculpted by artist and architect Kenneth Treaster. He designed the entire memorial as a place to honor the Jews who died in the Nazi concentration camps. It is an iconic reminder of the importance of remembering history, even when painful.